Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Chats with Chaudhry. I hope you're safe and well, and Happy New Year. Hope it started well for you. Today, I'm delighted to join by my good friend Sanj Kumar, who's CEO of ELRIG UK, and we are going to look back on 2024 and look ahead to this year and see what some of the challenges were last year, but also what some of the trends are and some predictions from Sanj for 2025. First of all, though, Sanj, Happy New Year, my friend. How are you?
I'm very well. Happy New Year to you as well. Did you have a good break?
I had a lovely one, but it seems like it was literally
Yeah,
years ago. I'm sure you're the same as well.
totally. Off with a bang, so to speak.
It
Yes.
certainly is.
Yeah.
Um, right, so before we start talking about 2024, um, first question is obviously for people not familiar with ELRIG, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah. The best way to think about ELRIG is that we're an association. So we're a scientific association that put conferences on for one particular segment of the life science community, which is the people who are doing early research on drug discovery. That's who we are, and that's in our books, that's about 22,000 people that we talk to either by email or social media. And simply what we do is we put on conferences and forums for that segment of the life science industry. So what we find, people who come to ELRIG meetings, I mean, ELRIG first of all puts on about 10 events per year, four of which are conferences, six of which are one-day forums. The conference is a two-day meeting. And we tend to get, 500 to 3,000 people attending our meetings, our conferences, and then 100 people attending our one-day conferences. Of the people who attend, around 60 to 70% are from the life science industry, which is defined as people who work in pharma, biotech, and CROs. Around about a third of the people who attend are what we call early career professionals, so they're just starting their professional career. And then we also find that we do actually get a number of academics coming. So the about 10% who attend are from academia because they are doing drug discovery, doing very early drug discovery. Um, and I think the key message is that what we do is we put on the best possible science we can. All our talks are by invite only. So and that has its positives because we know that the talk quality is going to be excellent. But all our meetings are free to attend. And the way that we survive, Rizvan, is, as you well know, is that we run associated exhibitions with tool suppliers who supply um, tools, life science tools, to this particular community, and they pay for sponsorship opportunities. And that's how we run. Probably a bigger answer than you needed, Riz, but I thought let's go for the full thing. So if you don't
No,
know
no, I
who
think it's very good actually, Sanj, that you remember all that, all those details off the top of your head. It's
I've
excellent.
had practice.
I know you have. Right now, so let's look back at 2024, but let's just start with a really simple question. How would you describe the year in one word and why?
It was a fabulous year. 24, I've heard a lot, and I know we're going to talk about this in a while. 24 was a challenging for most of the marketplace. On a very high level, there was a lot of rationalizations in industry,
Sure.
a lot of rationalization in biotechs. A lot of the tool suppliers suffered because of that. But Elric thrived. I mean, it was a fabulous year. That's the word I'd use. I think because Elrig went through the tough years during the pandemic, and if you, as you know, as you
I
well
do, yeah,
know,
with all the virtual events and so on that you had to go through as well.
precisely, and we kind of really worked out who we are, what our processes were in that particular period. That we were ready for any challenges that came our way. But I think so. Where we got to in 24 is after a lot of hard work by the team, and there's only six of us in our rigs, six members of staff. But we have this huge volunteer base who are supporting us. It's 50 plus active volunteers. I think we our sort of brand recognition and who we are hit a crescendo or high in 2024. So people began to realize, hey, you know what? even though I go through tough times at work, I am going to go out and attend an ELRIG meeting. And we saw that, Riz, because we doubled the numbers that came to our meetings in 2024. We had almost over 5,000 delegates across all our meetings across the year, which is up by 40% on the year before that. We had our meetings selling out from a sponsorship opportunity point of view. So we very smartly looked at each meeting and said we can sell this much to make the meeting profitable, and that's what we did. So it was an absolutely fabulous year. And some of the speakers we put out there were just world breaking. I mean, one of the keynotes, the two keynotes from drug discovery, Gemma from University of Cambridge was awarded a dameship over the Christmas holidays. I'm not sure if you know that or not, Riz, but the she opened our our um, our drug discovery meeting, and then of course Marcus from who is the CSO of Novo Nordisk. He was our second keynote. So we just got to another level, I think, in 2024.
Well, that's great to hear, actually, Sanj. And that leads very nicely in a beautiful segue to talk a bit more specifically about some of the highlights for you last year. I mean, you already talked about obviously the numbers increasing and doubling in terms of delegates, but what were some of the key highlights for you this year? Maybe not just from an from an area perspective, but maybe even from an industry perspective as well.
Yeah, from an industry perspective, we got to see more people from more companies than ever before, and that's a definite highlight. Forget about the actual numbers, right? But to get that message out to new, they're not new pharmaceutical companies, they're new to ELRIG pharmaceutical
Sure,
companies. But now we started to work with people in MSD. We started to work to people in Novo Nordisk, for example. Novartis became their community began to learn much more about us, and that's very gratifying because for many years we've been supported by AstraZeneca and GSK, and we managed to go to other pharmaceutical companies. The biotech community in Europe, and I know the UK one very well, is particularly vibrant. They come and go. They're like flowers. They pop up and then they're gone the next day, and you get new companies coming. But we got to get our message out to more of those biotechs. You can see that in the numbers. The other neglected part of the community, I feel, is the CROs. They're a very important part of the drug discovery community, and we gave them what they needed from a content point of view and also from a business point of view as well. So that was very gratifying. So we're reaching out more to more different delegates, if you like. I think what was also gratifying was the other side of the coin is it's not all just about science as well. ELRIG has really started to promote its legacy activities now. So we do science, but and money comes in, but we're actually spending a proportion of our profits, about 25% of our profits, goes back on legacy initiatives. So, for example, at Drug Discovery, which is held in October in London, we realised that people may want to come, but they wouldn't get support for funding to come. So even though it's free of charge, the obstacle is actually getting
sure.
a train ticket or whatever to come. So we did an activity called Fund the Bus, where we funded buses to academic organizations to come in to the meeting, and they were full. They had 30 to 50 people on each bus, and we did 5 buses, and boom, in they came. There's our EDI initiative. We want to be a very equality, diversity, inclusivity initiative. We were wanting to ensure that everybody feels that they can contribute to ELRIG. And the way we do that is by ensuring that our speaker lineup is equitable. And we've worked very hard to make sure that our speaker lineup across the year is 50% gender balance, so female, male. 35% of our speakers are non-white, and 30% of our speakers are from the early career professional. And we've done that. We track it and we measure it. I'm very proud of the STEM initiatives that we started as well. So Tiny Lab Coats, Adventures in Tiny Lab Coats is a little initiative we do for very young children. Don't ask me the years they're in, it's all changed. But they come in and they look at all this fancy technology that the vendors, exhibitors are putting on, and hopefully that will drive them along a STEM career. And finally, sustainability. I think our rig now looks at itself as a professional conference organizer. So we're looking at the sustainability of the conferences that we put on and how we can minimize our carbon impact. Especially because if you think about it, Drug Discovery had over 3,000 people coming from all over the world by plane, trains, and automobiles. How can we mitigate that impact on the environment?
That's fantastic, Sanj. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's stuff I didn't even know about, actually. So that's brilliant.
Mm.
Um, in terms of challenges, and again, you touched on it a little bit at the beginning there. What do you think some of the challenges have been in the last 12 months for the industry, and also as an event organizer yourself? Because obviously, those challenges all drip down to
Yeah,
you when you're trying to get delegates to come, when you're trying to get sponsors. So
yeah.
what sort of challenges do you think the industry's faced last year?
Yeah, I mean, it's usual productivity challenges, which I've been hearing since I've been in the industry since 2000, right? So over 25 years, they have productivity issues, which is producing enough medicines for the amount of money that they put into R&D. That's the fundamental challenge, and they are always reorganizing. They are always doing things differently, and that's what I love working with the pharmaceutical industry, because that those challenges, those changes keep the industry incredibly vibrant. What it means in reality is though that there have been rationalizations in staff, there have been structural changes, therefore people have been laid off, and a lot of our, not a lot, but a number of our key volunteers in 24 suffered that, and they were more than colleagues who work with us, they were friends actually. So, we have to, I have to look on that and support people. And I have a constant refrain when I hear somebody's been laid off, I'll always pick up the phone or drop them an email and say, look, you'll be fine. You just keep at it. So that's been a challenge. And those restructuring mean that, from a tool supplier point of view, then there's always questions about what the next new technology is, how can I achieve my revenue? And that then leads to a knock-on effect into the tool supplier um, industry. I'm sorry, I thought I turned off my Outlook, but it's binging away.
No, I can't hear it, Sanj.
That's
You're
fine.
right.
And that leads on to a knock-on effect to into the tools industry, and of course that then affects the budgets they'll spend on marketing, which is what will fund ELRIG. Okay, but all those issues, Riz, are to me an opportunity, because one of the mottos that we have in ELRIG is that yesterday's technologies will not discover tomorrow's medicines. Okay. And that's what we go to our vendors so and say, come and bring your latest and brightest technologies to the marketplace. And we're a place to do that. And actually that resonates very well, because they like to come, and they still come, and they still will come. Now, I'm not going to say that it hasn't been challenging. We grew by about 7% in 2024 compared to 23 in revenue. It was supposed to be more. Profit was down slightly, but the profit was down both because revenue was not as high as we
Sure,
projected, but also costs were up. The conference organizing industry is expensive. You're dependent on a number of big convention centers, and they know who they are because they have this discussion with me every year. And drug discovery cannot be housed anywhere but these big convention centers, and that pretty much, they're able to charge pricing that they can charge, and the whole that causes smaller organizations who don't have buying power. It hits our bottom line. So at the end of the
sure.
day, we made a profit in 24, but it wasn't quite as big as we would have liked to have made it. So yeah, those were the challenges. It was definitely a cascade effect, but I do believe there are opportunities, and we can talk about those, Riz.
Sure. Well, let's talk about some of the trends that you've seen in the industry. I mean, particularly I always say when you talk to conference organizers, they're a perfect group of people to talk about trends, because your whole program often, particularly the content, but also the exhibitors you get, is reflecting on what the trends are in that marketplace at that moment in time.
Yeah.
So, in the last 12 months, I mean, what are some of the trends you've seen, both from a content perspective for the content you're putting on for obviously your delegates now, what they're demanding, or what you think is interesting for them, and also in terms of the profile of exhibitors you're getting coming to the shows.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to talk from a very high level. So if there
Sure.
are any scientists watching this is, I'm not going to dive into the very deep level.
Sure.
I'm just going to talk from generic topics because,
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it anyway. Sure.
yeah. And some of the big topics that we're, in order to remain vibrant, to make sure that ELRIG continues to outperform in 2025, we have to make sure our content that we present is applicable and right for the marketplace, and people will come to it because when people come to listen to talks, then the vendors will be satisfied, the exhibitors will be satisfied, and they'll go home and they'll be very happy with the meeting and they'll generate leads. Okay, so the content is what drives all
Sure.
attendance. Okay, so really what you need to understand if you want to know what the trends are in 2025. And if you're a pharma company or an MBA student or a strategist or a tools provider, you want to know where the trends are for 2025. Go and look at the LRIG calendar
All right.
and look at the programming because that's it right there. Okay. So it starts off at the beginning of the year with research and innovation, which is all about big molecules and big data. And actually, that sets the trend for the rest of the year because big molecules, it's about this new medicines, right? Because new medicines are no longer the traditional small chemical molecules that the pharma companies built their heritage upon. It's about big molecules like antibodies, like about peptides, like RNA therapeutics. They're all bigger molecules, much more complex to handle, much more challenging from an efficacy point of view and from a regulatory point of view. So those are the new modalities that are coming to marketplace, and that's what the big pharma are looking at, and they are throughout the program. Okay, sorry, they are throughout the yearly program. But have a look at research and innovation. It's in March. That's a great signpost to where the drug discovery community is going to. And then the second part of research and innovation is big molecules and big data, and that leads to a whole new area of science that the pharma companies are looking at because they need more data. We're now in a position where they can look at cohorts of patients. They can do high throughput screening. They can generate a lot more data. They can get more statistical analysis and data points so they can make sure that their efficiency and their productivity is working well. But that all then needs to be supported, right? Because human beings are great at many things, but data crunching, we need help. And that leads to AI in drug discovery. And there's a whole tranche of AI topics that are coming out in ELRIG this year. Some other things that just to flag up and just to be mindful of is some of our forums, which are one-day meetings. They're much smaller, and they really are cutting-edge science topics. So we have a innovation in targets that's taking place in Berlin in the early part of the year. So that's looking at different targets that people are now looking at, which will lead to different modalities. So that's another area. There's specific therapeutic areas that are ripe for, I'm going to use the word exploitation. It's probably not the right word, Riz, but I can't think on my feet like that. But we have these therapeutic areas where we have the technology now, and we just need to put some effort into that, and it's beginning. So in Boston, we're going to America for the first time in June. We're going to Boston, and the topic there is drug discovery neuroimmunology, which is all about brain disease and all about the aging diseases. And there's a lot going on there, but the tools are there to make it happen. So my recommendation is, and I know you'll do this, is put the link for the RA calendar in the below this video. But that's where the signpost. That's where you need to go to. And you asked me another question. I just remembered. And that's reflected in the vendors that come because we always try and match our vendors to the programming.
Sure.
So if we're going to talk about neuroimmunology, we're going to make sure that we have the iPSC-derived neural stem cell companies there. We're going to ensure that we have the single biology companies there. We're going to ensure that we have the spatial biology companies there as well, because the two have to go hand in hand. You can't just have
Sure.
a conference without the right tools providers as well. So watch this space.
Fantastic. All right. Well, look, so you've sort of preempted my second half of the interview, because you started talking about the trends for next year, which is fine. Was what I wanted to ask you then, actually, as a CEO, obviously of an organization, and thank you for your transparency, by the way, in terms of how the business performed last year. Um, what are your thoughts in terms of 2025 from a macro level, in terms of how you think the market's going to go? I mean, JP Morgan ran last week. I
Yeah,
interviewed someone whose
yeah,
interview will go live this week.
yeah,
They actually thought the feedback from JP Morgan was quite positive
yeah,
in terms of activity.
yeah,
As a CEO of an organization which is obviously within this sector and
yeah,
is dependent on how the market goes
yeah,
to help drive numbers both from a delegate perspective and from a sponsor's perspective.
yeah.
What are your thoughts? How positive are you about 2025 in terms of how the market's going to go?
Yeah, I'm not on at such a high level as JP Morgan, as you know, Chris, but
No, no, no. But obviously, JP
uh,
Morgan actually sort of has a lot of the MA's talks to kick off the year and stuff. So people sort of use that as a basis to start
yeah,
forming opinions, if you like.
there was a lot of churn in 24, and I think that needs to settle in 25. And I'm talking about the pharma churn, the biotech.
Sure.
But I've seen that churn go through, and what I like about the churn, and two key examples are GSK and AstraZeneca. There were changes made. They were done early in the year, and I know that both of them are coming out of those particular um, periods. And I do feel that will pick up in terms of productivity. I think things will start to move. That churn led to the blossoming of the biotech community again, because good people decided to move on from those pharma companies. They go somewhere else and they end up in the biotech companies. A lot of them end up in the biotech companies, and that just kickstarts the whole thing again. So I just see them accelerate. Both you and I. That's how way we started this call, right? Is that we're already out the door, and we're on the 20th of January. We're out the door already, and we're working hard. And I feel that's the same for the companies that we're working with as well. I'm trying to get appointments, and they're all busy, etc., etc. So I think they're accelerating very quickly. So I'm very positive about 2025. I also think the tool suppliers should be very positive about 2025, but they need to be out the door now. I'm sure they are. I'm sure their sales managers are already nervous about their Q1 number, and they're off out there. But I see that there's opportunities out there now. You can only go after the opportunities, and I think that's what they should be doing. From an ELRIG point of view, we are planning to be successful. I think we did look at ourselves towards the end of last year and say, the profit was down a bit. What do we need to do to make sure let me say that differently. The profit was not as high as we expected. It was a profit. What do we need to do in order to ensure that we're not in that situation at the end of 25? Well, it's very simple. Let's just make sure that we're communicating the right messages to our delegates so they keep coming. And let's make sure that we're talking to the vendors to understand, so they understand why they should be at our meetings, the value proposition. And the third thing is we are looking at costs. We're a small team. Some of the costs we just need to be mindful of. So we're just digging in and scaling back a little bit on some of the ambitions we have in terms of cost. That's all it is, Riz. It's I'm sorry, it's just me running a company here. I'm not a rocket scientist. That's all I.
I know the feeling, don't worry. Right. So, um, one thing I wanted to ask you about though, and you touched on a little bit in terms of some of the forums you've got this year, and talked about the awareness that you've raised. And it was interesting you mentioned Novartis and MSD and other pharma companies, which you would say are based in Europe, not in the UK
Yeah,
primarily.
yeah,
And I would say that's maybe a reflection, I know for a fact, that you've made a concerted effort in the last 12 months or so, 18 months, to expand the ELRIG brand by doing more events overseas. And
correct.
that's reflected, of course, in your program in 2025. So, how is it going in terms of the expansion, if you like, of ELRIG from what was perceived as very much a UK-based organization to one which now you just mentioned Boston,
Yeah,
for example,
yeah,
becoming more of a global or certainly a European and North American
yeah.
event organizer rather than just a UK-based one?
let's learn to run before we walk. So we're not classifying ourselves as an international company just yet.
Right.
But the point you make is very valid. Our community is international. Okay.
Right.
And at the end of the day, if we don't serve the community, whether it's the delegates or whether it's the vendors, I do think we're going to be limited. We were perceived as a UK based organization. We still, what we've learned is that if we run a meeting in the UK, 60 to 70 people of the attendees will be from the UK. So wherever we run the meeting, 60 to 70% of the attendees will be from that geography. So we
Sure.
ran a meeting in Copenhagen. We found that statistics. We ran a meeting in Paris. We found that statistics. Why are we doing this? Well, we're doing it to serve the community, and it's because you see the changes in the community. So Novo Nordisk is a huge European pharma company now, right? So and they're not being served. I mean, for a long time, ELRIG have served Scandinavia because of our connections with AstraZeneca. So we go
Sure.
to Gothenburg. It was a natural step simply to go over into Denmark, and we did a one-day meeting, very successful. And oversubscribed and a great meeting. New science. It was all about metabolic diseases, new therapeutic area, which I know nothing about, but I learned a lot because I attended. So we're doing the right things. We're going across Europe now and serving those communities. We heard the same in France as well. We heard people um, wanted to have our type of free to attend high content meetings in Europe come over and do a meeting. And what happens, what tends to happen is that we get a local champion who says, you've got to support me on this. I'll bring in the science, I'll do some of the advertising, but you guys bring in your machine to make it happen. And that's where we ended up with Germany and Copenhagen and Paris last year. And the same is happening now for 2025. So we're going to Germany, we're to Berlin, I've already said that. Um, we're going to America for the first time as well. We'll continue to go to Sweden because we have the AstraZeneca meeting there, the conference there as well. So we are definitely going to different geographies. Um, the American initiative is twofold, and I don't mind being open and honest about this. It's because we've got our community saying, come over, bring your free of charge events to us. We'll support them from a content point of view. You just use your machine to make it happen. But a free of charge one-day meeting in Boston on neuroimmunology, we think will go down very well. So that happens. But actually, it's a great way for us to do outreach. It's a great way for us to go to the US and invite American tools companies to come and see us there. It's less of a barrier
Of
to
course.
see what we do, come meet with the ELRIG team, see what we're doing, and then maybe they'll come to drug discovery. So it's a twofold progress. I'm being very honest with this.
No, no, of course, and I think people, who know the industry will understand that as well anyway, to be fair.
Yeah,
Well, that's great. Now, the reason I've got the San Diego Padres
yeah,
jersey
I can see
behind
it.
me is because you and I are going to meet hopefully next week
Yes,
anyway
we'll see each other
in
there.
San Diego for SLAS 2025. And I know again that you have worked very hard to create collaborations with different event organizers across Europe and North America, and you
Yeah,
are at a number of events. So, is that going to continue for 2025 as well? Obviously, SLAS, you've got SLS, you've got a very good relationship with anyway, but I know that. But going forward, are you going to be working with a lot more event organizers and to get the
yeah, and
SLS brand out there?
yeah, and I'll tell you a few of those, and if I miss any of you out there, I do apologize. But yeah, SLAS absolutely will continue our relationship with them. We do a track swap where they put a track into our drug discovery meeting and we put a track of science content into their European meeting, which is taking place in May in Hamburg this year. And drug discovery is taking place in October in Liverpool this year. I like to go to the SLAS meeting in the US. I have done for many years. We have a booth there where we can meet some of our community. Quite a lot of the European Elric community will be there, so we like to go there and meet people. And then towards the end of this year, we're also planning to do a joint SLAS meeting in London, which has becoming a sort of a tradition.
Annual thing, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so that definitely going on. But there are other partners that we work with as well. So, for example, we're going to go to Belfast for the first time in April. We're going to put a track into an organization called HERAC. It's a health tech meeting, and at some point, I'll make sure all this gets onto our website so you can see all this on our website. But ELRIG is going to put together a panel discussion as part of that meeting. It's health tech in Belfast. We'll contribute to the British Pharmacological Society meeting in December next year. That's become an annual thing as well. Well, I say we will. We're certainly giving them space in our meeting, and I'm assuming they will give us reciprocation. We haven't signed the paperwork, but we know them very well. I'm sure that will happen. In June this year, we'll go to San Francisco, and I will go to San Francisco in June this year to the Protein Society meeting. That's becoming an annual event as well now because the Protein Society is an academic organization and has ambitions to go more into the drug discovery side of the marketplace. So they'd like our help in that, and we put on vocational discussions as part of their meeting, like how does an academic go into drug discovery? And then, at Drug Discovery October meeting, we have lots of partners coming in to work with us. The Royal Society of Chemistry will continue to work with us. And I knew this would happen. It's gone out of my head who the other partners are, but there are other Augusta partners who will drop me.
Yeah, to be named later. Well,
Yeah.
look, Sanj, I appreciate the time out there. So we're going to finish off actually, because you mentioned SLAS, but uh, we've obviously started 2025. A lot of people have been very, very busy, I know, because the events have been coming thick and fast already in January. Um, but what's your message for everybody for 2025? Last word from you as the CEO of ELRIG. What's your message to the market for 2025?
To the tool suppliers, my message is keep your nerve. It'll be fine. I know that there's been a lot of discussion about marketing budgets already, but my advice is keep your nerve. I would go out and spend that marketing budget now, and I would spend it with ELRIG because we will guarantee to give you return on your investment. And for the delegate community, um, go to our calendar, go to our webpage, put all the events in your diary, and start planning to attend. Because again, that will be worthwhile time out of the office. You'll get something by attending our meetings.
Fantastic. So, look, viewers, I would highly recommend that you do what Sam suggested. Uh, check out the website. It will be above the video. Check out all the events. They are all free to attend, and they've got great content. I don't just say that because he's my friend. I'd say it because actually I've spoken to lots of delegates at these various events, and they all love the content, and they are grateful that Ellery put them on, and then they actually turn up and go to see them. So I would really recommend you check out the events above here and do that. You've got nothing to lose by doing it. And well, Sanj, I look forward to hopefully I haven't booked my accommodation. I might ring you afterwards and find out where you stay and see if you've got any spare rooms. But I haven't sorted out my accommodation yet for SLAT or my flights. So I need to sort that out today, hopefully. Um, I'll hopefully see you next week in San Diego
I'll
and
be
we
there.
can catch up in person. But I wish you and everyone at Elric and everyone who's watching a fantastic 2025. Stay in good health, happiness, and safe, and lots of success. And as always, until next time, stay well and stay safe. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.